Welcome to the Resort Trades Learning Center. I'm your host, Sharon Scott Wilson. I am publisher of Resort Trades Magazine. And today we are going to really drill down on, as you might read in the title, what it means to turn adversity into something more positive, into purpose, actually. And here today we have Sheryl Cattell. Many of you may remember Cheryl. Hi. She was with a major timeshare development company. And since then, she has launched her own company. She's a master certified life coach. She's also a LinkedIn trainer. You can find her other videos on Resort Trades YouTube channel, by the way. She's a speaker and published author. I'm so proud of you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Sharon. I couldn't have done it without a lot of help from my friends, especially you and Resort Trades.
Well, thank you so much. Well, I did want to ask you, what made you leave the industry or leave the corporate world and start your own business?
Well, probably one thing we do share in common is the love for the hospitality industry. And I worked for Travelocity. I also worked for, as you said, a major timeshare company. And what made me leave, let's see, I think it was 3 years ago. Oh, yeah, COVID-19.
Oh, that.
And so, like a lot of people, I saw this as a devastating development. And yet, here I am to say that a lot of good has come as a result of COVID-19. I never thought I would say that after I lost both of my parents early on in the pandemic.
I'm sorry.
And it just felt like all of negative. But what I learned is that actually I was growing my wings. So there's still good to come from something that may look awful.
So why did you write the book, Turning Adversity into Purpose? Very good title.
Well, thank you, Sharon. It actually chronicles my journey from a corporate job of some 40 some years into doing what I love the most, following my passion. Some would say following my purpose. I find myself now, I teach digital marketing at Florida Atlantic University, Go Owls, and I'm also a mental health coach. So the turning adversity into purpose was partially my own journey, as well as, the hundreds of clients that I've spoken to in the last 3 years, talking about their challenges and their adversities, their crises. I'm fortunate to work for a company who allows me unlimited time off, who, I'm a paid employee, W-2 and all of that, but they allow me the maximum flexibility. And what this has done is it's allowed me to do the one thing I love the most, which is making a difference in people's lives. So I work for Lyra Health now, and I coach clients as well as private clients on taking a situation that may not look so great and finding the purpose in it, finding the gift. So that's what the book is all about.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to focus on today. And why don't you take us into that and tell us what's entailed in turning adversity into purpose? How do we do that?
Well, before we leave this, why did I write the book? I want to say that I believe every single person has a book in them. I don't think there's anybody who hasn't heard the words, you should write a book. Sharon, I can't think of anybody better than you to write a book about the things you've seen, the things you've been through. I believe it gives us the opportunity to save people a lot of trials and tribulations. If that's something we can share that will make their journey lighter, save them from having to recreate the wheel. That's really the purpose behind this book. And I truly believe everyone has a book within them. So I would encourage your listeners, anyone who is really thinking about writing a book, I would be happy to be a resource for them, because I tell you, if that's some battle scars I could share and save. So anyway, so yeah, let's dive in a little bit. So Lyra represents or gives mental health and therapy to about 15 million employees across the United States and Europe.
Oh.
And what I found is that the companies that are progressive enough to offer mental health coaching, which is what I do, as well as therapy to their employees, are really in tune with the fact that we all need that coach, that boost, somebody to help us see a situation a little more clearly, to see through the current crisis to the other side. And so some people say that what I do, well, that's for my personal life, that's for my family, and actually no. I find that people who have totally different lives at work and at home end up having the most stress. And so I encourage my clients to try to be authentic, and that their personal life should not be different than their professional life. As a matter of fact, we'll talk a little bit about the castle, and the castle should have something to do with both what you do at home and what you do at work. So that's a little bit about the context. There's a wonderful story about a butterfly, and you can see the who it's adapted by and so on. But Robert II says this: the struggle you're in today is developing the strength you need for tomorrow. And so don't give up. And that, as a mental health coach, that's really what I encourage my clients to do, is to see whatever struggle they're going through as an opportunity to grow. In the case of the butterfly, the story of metamorphosis is about a boy who finds a butterfly cocoon, and he brings it home to watch it emerge, right? This is a miracle, right? Go from a worm to this beautiful, colorful, flying insect. And so he watches it for several days, and finally it starts to move. And then the butterfly actually, after many hours, finally gets one of its little tiny legs out. And the boy is getting really impatient and feeling awful for this poor butterfly. So he goes in and gets a pair of scissors and clips open the cocoon. And what comes out, what emerges, is an insect that has a bloated body and little tiny wings. And what the boy didn't know, and what we don't know sometimes as we have to watch our children or our employees go through these struggles, is that that's part of the way that they get their wings. So the butterfly, as it's struggling to get out of the cocoon, is pushing all the fluids in its body and growing its wings over many hours of struggle and trials and trepidation. And so what the boy didn't know is you can't save someone from that. And we can't save ourselves by going and hiding in a hole or running away or getting angry. It's really about embracing that struggle and learning the gift that it has. In other words, getting our wings. So.
A little break while we introduce our sponsor. Our sponsors, Resort Trades Magazine, well, actually the media group. We offer a full range of offline and online media, and our audience is strictly resort and hospitality, and it's all free. We are strictly advertising supportive, so I encourage you to please go on to resorttrades.com, sign up for our weekly e-newsletter so you'll stay informed about what's happening in your industry and stay connected with your peers. And also, if you'd like to order a mail copy, we're the only publication in Timeshare that is published monthly. Go to, or rather send an email to subscribe@thetrades.com. So thank you. And now back to our.
Well, before we leave Resort Trades, I have to say this is a must read. This was always a must read for me every single month. And I think it's wonderful, the resources that you provide. If I ever needed someone to do something, that was one of my first go-tos.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And so, I think what you're doing here, providing it free of charge, I think your listeners will want to support the people who advertise so they can keep getting it in the mail. So.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Cheryl. Appreciate it.
All right. So this is one of the images or diagrams that's in the book, and I like the metaphor that it has here. Typically, what I talk about in the book is there's 4 steps. The first thing is the crisis or issue that arises in your life, which is what gets your attention. And so, unfortunately, unless we get something gets our attention, we tend to kind of hang out down here. I don't know if you can see, it's a comfort zone. It's a big overstuffed couch where we have all of our bad habits, binge watching and eating too much and doing things that are not that healthy for us. So this is really where we have an opportunity. This, in my case, I felt like somebody set fire to the couch. When the hospitality industry went absolutely dark, that was a wake-up call for me. Mm-hmm. And so I was surrounded by all of this fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I call it the FUD factor. And this is what kept me on the comfy couch. It was too frightening to walk out. And so what I say here is we need to connect whatever the crisis is or the issue or challenge in our life with what is it that it's trying to communicate to me. So for the butterfly, that's flight, the freedom of flight. And that's really represented on the top by the castle. I call that your purpose, the thing that you as a unique individual with the only person in the world with not only a unique thumbprint, but unique skills, unique talents, unique experience, that you have that ability and have actually a calling to the castle. That's what I refer to it. That's your purpose. That's what's pulling you off of the couch. And sometimes we need a little kick in the behind to get off of the couch. So connect, realize that there's a connection between what has caused you to take that step off the couch and walk into this area of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And then the opportunity is for you to convert all of that fear or anger or whatever is going on for you into something that is going to fuel you to create something, growth, helping you set goals, targets, to climb, to do the hard work, to challenge yourself, to grow, to improve. So this is one of the diagrams. I love this diagram in the book. I talk a lot about going for your castle, keeping the castle in view when you're not certain, when you feel lost, afraid, in the darkness. So there is always a castle calling you. So this is another image that I love because a lot of my clients come to me and they say, well, I'm here and we're going through layoffs. As you know, the tech industry is going through, 10,000, 7,000 layoffs at a time. It's heart-wrenching. I haven't gone through it, I know. And so what happens is that we are represented by the jar, and it feels like our problems are almost suffocating us, right? We can't get a breath in. And so a lot of people come to me and they say, I just need you to help me make this problem either reduce or get smaller or go away. That's all I need. I need you to help me find a new job. I need you to, and my answer to that is, do you know what it is you're passionate about? Do you know what this crisis is telling you? Because unless you do that, the real issue is the possibilities of layoffs will never go away. And that we, as the jar, have the opportunity to grow as we embrace these problems. Our problems, relatively speaking, become smaller as we, as individuals, grow from them, as we learn from them. So that's really the conversion that I talk about, converting this idea that we're going to make our problems all go away. I teach skills and tools that help you grow as a person so that you are bigger than your problems. And there's a lot more room for breathing. So I love this resiliency, and I love this definition. It's about successfully adapting and recovering after a stressful or traumatic life event. And that, I think, is what we're here to do. We're here to adapt, to grow, to change, and recover. And so that is really what the conversion is and the growth that we are looking for. So I did want to give you some ideas. What I say is the 10 tips for overcoming adversity.
And I love this. Don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm a list woman. So
you
thank
love
you.
Lists. Okay, the top 10. These are my top 10 tips. And by the way, the book is full of exercises and lists. I think almost every chapter has an activity that you can do and apply immediately in your life. So humor is my number one. I love to inject humor. I think even when I was meeting with the people who had to let me go, I had them laughing. I told them, I'm going to share a poem with you. And I shared the poem with them as they told me that, they were letting go several thousand people. It was nothing personal. But I had them laughing at the end of it. And that to me is just a gift, such a gift. Another thing you can do is prepare. Make sure that you have done all you can do to prepare for worst case, best case scenarios. Remember who you are. Remember what adversities you've overcome in the past. And if you're like me, I'm somebody who has a growth mindset. If you tell me something, give me some feedback, I am going to grab that and go for it and learn. How can I make that? There's no such thing as failure, only feedback. And so that is a growth mindset. That is somebody who wants to embrace anything that happens, any criticisms, and learn from it and make it better next time. Number 5 is one of my favorites. We call it name it to tame it. And one thing I really used to, and she still comes and visits every once in a while, is perfectionism. And I named her Judge Judy because anything I did, she would judge. It's not good enough. You should have spent more time. You should have done this. Nothing was good enough for Judge Judy. And so by naming her, I realized I wasn't her. And that was a bad habit I had. And it stole so much joy when I would finish something like this book of George Judy would go in here and find every typo and tell me what I did wrong, right? And so I name her and I say, yeah, I hear you. Sit down. Making peace and realizing, I think unwavering faith has been one of my biggest adversity overcomings, knowing that everything is really unfolding. I have a great analogy that, this is how we see the world, when in reality, this is the world. But we can't see very much through that tube.
Yeah.
And so embrace it. Embrace what's coming so that you can expand your awareness, expand your understanding. Be tenacious. Definitely something you have to have as a digital marketer. If at first it doesn't work, Control Alt Delete and try again. And remember why you're here. Remember your own passion. Teaching at FAU as an adjunct professor for digital marketing, students come to me all the time and they say, could you help me find an internship? And I say, no, I will not help you find a hole to crawl in. What I will help you do is to identify what kind of industry you want to work in, what kind of job, what kind of company, culture are you looking for? And then you go interview those people to see if they're good enough for you. So that's following your purpose instead of signing up to deliver someone else's purpose. And then, of course, my favorite, another episode coming out tonight, Ted Lasso and Believe.
Oh, I love Ted Lasso.
I do too. Now, the great thing, Sharon, is that there are huge gifts that you get from adversity. Number one, we had a group, we were talking about adversity in our lives. And every person had to go find something that was really heart-wrenching, difficult for them. And at the end, our facilitator said, now, if you had a choice and you could avoid that, would you? And 100% of the people in the room said no, because it gives me an empathy that I would never have had. It gives me a taste of my own humanity. And so that is a huge gift from adversity. Of course, the growth. Self-confidence is another thing that comes from it. When you are able to come back and be resilient and succeed in the face of COVID-19 in the hospitality industry, you become pretty confident in what your abilities are. Also, you have more appreciation and gratitude. You don't take things for granted as much, right?
Right.
When you lose someone you love dearly, you remember all the opportunities that you had. And so you're a little bit more appreciative and a lot less taking for granted when you've overcome adversity. Also, we learn how to do better stress management. And the best thing is, we're not going to be looking through this anymore. We're going to be looking at a broader opportunity, and new paths will be revealed. So anyway, I love this quote from Maya Angelou. She says, we may encounter many defeats, but we must not be defeated. It may even be necessary to encounter the defeat so we know who we are.
That's an excellent one. You know, I loved your name it, because in church that I, at one time, I attended a certain church that said, name it and claim it. So that was the bright side of naming it. But now I think I'm hearing name it and disclaim it.
So, you know, I actually do a mindful awareness exercise, and I think I talk about it in the book, where you go and embrace this part of yourself.
Yeah.
You don't really throw it away. You say, yes, Judge Judy, you've been with me a long time. I brought you all this way. I've been carrying you along with me. And now I don't need that anymore, but I still love you. I'm not throwing you away. I still care very much about you. However, now I'm an adult and I don't need to worry about my parents throwing me out on the street if I'm not perfect. It's okay. And so it's really kind of calming that part of yourself, calming the negative emotions. Anytime you have a negative emotion, you're operating out of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. It's either fight or flight. That's your reptilian brain that's at the base of your brain stem. That's really what's going on. And we want to embrace that like a child. We want to embrace that and bring it back into ourselves. So all that energy we spend, the negative energy that we spend, worrying, being stressed out, anxious, all of that comes back.
Yeah.
When we tame it. And now we can start using our executive functions, the prefrontal cortex, our creativity, our sympathy, our curiosity, our problem solving. And those can't operate when our fear, fight, or flight is pumping toxins.
Yeah, when we're in the midst of FUD.
Yes.
I love that. Well, and as you remember from the timeshare or hospitality industry, and I'm sure every business, there's often a lot of pressure, and labor shortages, salespeople facing rejection repeatedly can build up stress, or managers dealing with angry customers. So how do you suggest we turn adversity into purpose in the business environment?
Well, let me take one example. One example I'm very familiar with, and that's the rejection for our salespeople. And they're the front line. They're critical to the success of any timeshare company.
Yeah.
And again, it's how do we frame that? How much of that do we see? Do we focus on the negative rejection, or my favorite salesperson, who was wildly successful, used to say, I got rejected. I'm only 9 more away from a sale.
I love it.
Think about it. Of course. And they would rejoice and celebrate every single rejection because they knew it was a numbers game.
Yep, it's a
And
numbers game.
we have that opportunity. We have that opportunity no matter what. Let's talk about employment problems, hiring and retaining employees.
Yeah.
What that forces us to do is to be more creative. It forces us to think outside the box. I was at a restaurant the other day, and I can't even remember which one it was, but we had a waitress come over. She took our order, and a robot showed up and delivered the food.
Oh.
What?
Isn't that wild?
It was crazy. Yeah, and it was hot. You know, it hadn't sat under the warming light. It wasn't as soon as it came off the griddle. It was on the robot heading to our table.
Wow.
And so I think we have opportunities, no matter what it is. Whatever is stressing us out is if we can take that energy and reclaim it and bring it back and choose to see it differently, convert that situation into a growth opportunity. That is really what we're here to do. That's the jar growing bigger, right?
Right.
Because we're not going to solve all of the problems of the world, but we can get bigger.
Right. And that reminds me of another question I had. If a leader of a group or an organization, if they want to inculcate this into the corporate culture or the group think, how do you suggest they go about doing that?
Well,
other than buying your book and distributing it to everybody.
It's kind of like, I remember when I just got out of school, we bought the Who Moved My Cheese, right?
Oh, right.
And remember that book? And
I
everybody in my company got a copy of it. I'm trying to remember at the timeshare company, there was another way, the way of the goose, the way of the squirrel, the way of that's one way, is to lead by example. That's the second way. So you could do it by indoctrination, through books, through through webinars, or through meetings and so on. We used to have like a monthly award, right, for people that emulated the values that we were trying to promote. And so that's one way. But I think also having leadership that's a role model. They're showing the way. And another thing that I think you want to do is to admit and actually celebrate our humanness. And as I mentioned at Lyra Health, they're really the owner, actually his son had some learning difficulties and some mental health issues. And it's what made him leave Facebook. He was the former CFO of Facebook. And start Lyra, because he believes that mental health is number one productivity improvement that the United States has not tapped.
Very true. Yeah.
So he offers a blended care program where coaching all the way to therapist, all the way up to psychotherapy and medicine for mental health.
Now we have to get the insurance company and Medicare companies and Medicare on board to pay for that.
Yeah. But the big companies are adding this as an employee assistance program, but making it not with the stigma attached, right?
Right.
So with Lyra, there's an opportunity to hire life coaches. Oh, I have a lot of people who would say, oh, I don't need a therapist, but now a life coach. Every person needs a life coach at some point in their life.
Yes, absolutely.
So I think that is something, encouraging humanness, encouraging people to be authentic, supporting them wherever they are, at whatever place they're at. And I think that you give loyalty, and as a result, you get loyalty in return.
Yeah, Cheryl, you're such a positive person. I think that's what makes you so attractive and engaging. But I think I read in your book that you went through a lot of adversity, and how come you didn't come out all bitter and uh,
No, good question. Well, it is interesting because I did spend a number of bitter years. I think those were bad habits. I know when my father left my mother when I was less than 1 year old, I became very bitter about it. My mother helped, blaming him for everything because there's only one side to the story. But I do remember it took me almost 35 years to get to a place where I was willing to look at the fact that it wasn't the lack of love from my father, who I saw, by the way, every other weekend without fail, who was
oh,
always in my life, who was always there. And what I found out when, I was in my midlife crisis was all along, but it was the wall that I had put up in front of my heart that prevented it ever getting to me. And what happened was I was telling my life story 22 days in a row. And finally, I was a hero. And this is in the book. I encourage my readers to go and do this. Tell your life story as if you're a superhero. Tell it as if you're a victim. Tell it as a comedy. Don't change the facts. Just change the spin on it. And what I realized, Sharon, was 22 days later, my life was just a story. I had made it all up. And I could choose to make up any story I wanted. And in that moment is when I realized, and I let that wall come down, and literally my experience was that my whole past changed. Everything that had happened up until that point was all of a sudden infused with all the love my father had been trying to get to me.
ah,
And I called him and told him, I got it. I felt it. I got it. And he just cried. He said, I tried so hard.
now you're going to make me cry.
But what a beautiful transformation to turn
Oh,
anger
oh, yeah.
into love and opening my heart to love. And I think that's opportunity for everybody to be able to change the story, to change their outlook, to make it positive. It is positive if we embrace it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one more thought. Children's stories. Now, you love to illustrate your concepts with stories. So, is there one that's favorite to you that
really supports this book?
yeah.
Inspiration to me, yes. This one is it's called The Little Soul and the Sun, and it's beautiful. It's a little child up in the clouds, but it's written by Neil Donald Walsh, and he's the person who wrote Conversations with God. This book is a great tool or teaching example for adults and children. And it's about a little boy who wants to come to Earth to learn forgiveness. He wants to know, wants to embody that because he feels that there's not enough of it. And I think he's right. But the problem was he needed someone to forgive. And so in this case, God asks if there's anyone who's willing to do something so terrible that it's going to require forgiveness. And there's a little girl who steps up and says, I will do this for you. And please remember who I really am.
Oh,
And so I think that's what we're here all to do, is to remember who we really are and who all of the people around us really are.
it reminds me of that Luke Bryan song that goes, I believe most people are good.
Absolutely. And if you're not, so this is the other adage I have is, everything is either an act of love or a cry for love.
Wow.
So when I think of somebody, we have a few of those here in Florida, and
Some
but when
detractors and
I don't get angry.
yeah.
My heart opens, and I feel the cry for love.
Yeah. Well, You're such a special person. That's why.
Well, I feel a lot of love for you, Sharon.
Oh,
I couldn't have done this without you. This book would never have come into being had it not been for the support of you, Resort Trades Magazine, all of the excerpts that you published.
Oh, Carrie, that's Carrie's doing. Boy,
Well,
she's on it.
You really have been there for me, Sharon. I can't thank you enough. You're just
Thank you.
a special person.
Oh, we love you too.
Do we need? Oh, here we go. If you want more.
That's right. And I might say to our listeners, if you have something that you wanted to, that you learned from this session, I like the Judge Judy, name it or disclaim it, or whatever we're going to say.
Tame it.
To contain it.
Tame.
Oh, tame it.
Lion.
Okay. A lot of ways we could phrase that, but I love that one. So whatever appealed to you or you think might make a difference in your life, please add a comment to the YouTube underneath the description. And while you're there, I hope you'll support our effort to bring you a lot of free information and free videos. Go ahead and put in a like and subscribe, hit the bell icon so you won't miss any other Resort Trades presentations too. And Cheryl, thank you so much for all this hard work and preparing and for bearing with me and my awkwardness. Technical issues.
Not at all. It's a delight always, Sharon, to be with you.
Thank you for watching.